Hello, and thank you so much for joining in. To anyone new to this channel, a very warm welcome, and to those who are returning, welcome back. So today is going to be a little talk on some ideas about how to live well, how to have a successful life. Not necessarily successful in how we normally think of a successful life. Normally, when people mean success, it means success in money or success in business, having a lot of money. These ideas can certainly help with that and lead with that, though that's not the main intention. The main intention is how to truly be happy, be healthy of these ideas, to be happy, to be healthy, to, to live in harmony, to live in harmony with ourselves, with each other, and with nature, to live in harmony with the natural world, which truly is our home here on this beautiful earth we live on. So, how to do that? Because, in my view, everyone is seeking to do that. I've never met a person that's not trying to find happiness, health, and well being and have a good life. So, everyone's seeking that. And if you've been seeking that, if you're just like everyone else and you've been seeking that, and you haven't been as successful at that as you would like, then I hope these ideas can be helpful to you. They've been very helpful to me in finding more of that. So, and these are all based around the teachings of a very interesting man named Bruno Groening, whose picture you can see behind me there. Bruno Groening taught in Germany after World War II. He was a very intriguing man. In his presence, the unthinkable happened. Healings happened. Blind people regained their vision. Paralyzed people stood up out of their wheelchairs and walked. And this happened over and over and over. Can't even estimate how many tens of thousands of times healings this occurred. And he's no longer in his body. And he said that when I am gone, the healings will continue. And the healings have continued. I myself have experienced multiple healings. I know many people who've had healings. I've read many, I know them personally. I've read many documented reports. We've had healings happen in the middle of meetings just like this. So what Bruno Groening shared isn't really focused around him being in a body. It's still continuing. What he taught was, the healings are still continuing, but what he taught were universal spiritual principles that when applied, life works well and the miraculous happens. So a very warm welcome to everyone. And let's start off by practicing one of the key things he taught, that there is a vital life energy. You could call it a spiritual energy, which would be accurate, but he also said this energy was completely natural, a part of the natural world, and that this energy is available to help in any and every situation. And he taught a very simple, direct way of taking this energy in. So we're going to practice a little bit of that now. So please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in a relaxed position, not leaning against your chair if possible. And then please close your eyes. And if you like, take a deep breath. And now let go of the day. Let go of what's happened. Let go of your thoughts about what will happen. And come into the present moment. And then be open to the idea of this healing life energy. You don't have to believe in it, but there is a need to be open to it, to experience it. And then, if you want to, you can say a prayer if you have a particular spiritual religious belief, or you can just have the will to receive it, have the intention to receive it, and observe your body, noticing what you feel, while intending to take in this healing life energy. Noticing what you feel, having the will, the intention to take this life in, this life force. If your mind is just running every which way, then I suggest you observe your breath, or that you repeat a short prayer or mantra, however the practice is to observe your body. Keep coming back to observing the body. So I'm going to talk and read a little, and I invite people um, to continue to do this practice, to continue to observe their body while having the intention to take this energy in while I talk. You're welcome to just sit with your eyes closed and observe your body. So, in order to have a happy, healthy, harmonious life, we really need to understand how life operates. And so, Bruno Groening had a few things to say on a really deep level. You know, if you want to do well at a sport, you need to know the rules of the sport. You need to know some rules, some strategy. Helps to know about the opposite team. Now, Bruno Groening had a few things to say about how to do well at life. Do not play with life, but in life. Life is no game. The game lies within life. Live a well-ordered life. That means live according to the rules of life. And the real game of life has rules to it. The good game starts with good thoughts. The evil game, to the contrary, starts with evil thoughts. One could call this life on Earth a play school. Welcome to play school, everyone. In order to be able to play the right way, you have to be proficient in the rules. The good, the divine, lies within the game. As long as you stick to the rules, it is a true game. But whenever you bring into play even just one bad thought, then it is no longer a game. Only one bad thought is enough to end the game straight away. So welcome to Play School, everyone. We're here to learn. And the first lesson is the recognition that life has rules or principles to it. And that if we adhere to those principles and rules, life is going to flow a lot better. Now, Bruno Groening points out that one of the primary rules, principles, structure, the literal structure of life, how life operates, has to do with thinking. He says, the good game starts with the good thoughts. The evil game, to the contrary, starts with evil thoughts. Only one bad thought is enough to end the game straight away. How is that possible? How can one bad thought take us out of the game of life? And if I'm understanding Bruno Groening correctly, then into the unfun, then that's how life becomes unfun, unjoyous. When we step out of the game, when we step out of following the principles. But how can one negative thought lead that to happen? Well, all we need to do is observe ourselves, and very clearly we can see how true this is. For example, today I was meditating, and all of a sudden I started to have negative thoughts about someone who hadn't treated me well, and someone who I believe is harming other people. This person, in my view, harmed me and is harming others. So I had one thought about this person. It was a very negative thought, like they're a fake, they're a bad person. I forget the exact thought. And instantly I felt my belly clench up. And then another thought came. I've got to go and this person gives talks. I've got to go and debate with him and show everyone that he's wrong. That's the next thought that came. And then my belly felt even tighter. And next thing you know, all these negative thoughts were coming. Now, if I hadn't caught it, if I hadn't seen what was going on, what would have happened? It could have ruined my day. I could have been stuck in negative thinking and negative feelings for hours. Much less those thoughts could have led me to do something rash. So what I did, let me just offer Bruno Groening's instructions for what to do with negative thoughts. Be wary of every evil thought. Refute it, and if you like, say to yourself, I want nothing to do with this bad thought. I want to have a good thought now. Then distract yourself. Look out of the window, for example. Look into the direction where the good, the real divine is showing itself. So what Bruno Groening pointed out is that if we take in a negative thought, not if we have a negative thought, thoughts come to us. However, it's our job to determine which thoughts are good and which thoughts are not good, which thoughts we say yes to, and in essence, take in. The German word that's often translated as accept is the sense of like when you receive a letter, you accept receipt of a package. Every thought is a delivery, and it's up to us to determine if it's a worthy thought to be taken up. So in this case, I very quickly determined that these thoughts were not worthy to be taken up. And if I hadn't caught them, as I said, it would have ruined my day. And I believe that any human being on this planet has had the same experience. I was having a great meditation, and then all of a sudden, these thoughts just appear, seemingly out of nowhere. And so is my job, and I wish I had done it quicker. It took about 3 or 4 such thoughts where I was like, whoa, no. But this is one of the essential rules of the game of life, recognizing that not every thought is a good thought. Some thoughts are straight up destructive, and we'll look at that in a moment. But now let's spend a little time and reflect on this. Is Bruno Groening right? Is life a play school, a place where we come to learn? And that it can be joyful if we know how to live. It's my experience that when I truly live by these principles, life is a joy. That's not to say it's not without challenge sometimes. And is he right that thoughts have a profound power and that we need to be mindful of which thoughts we say yes to? Let's spend a little time reflecting on all this and also continuing to take in some healing life energy. Noticing what you feel, having the intention, the will to receive this good energy. Observing the body. And as we do that, becoming mindful of our thoughts. Bruno Groening said it like this: man acts according to his will. As his will, so his thought. The thought pushes persuades, moves in the sense of pushes a man to deeds. So this is why it's so important to watch our thoughts, because our thoughts, the German word is bewegen, push, persuade, even coerce a person to action. I was having these negative thoughts about this person who gives talks, and then I started to feel like, yes, I need to go and debate and argue with this person and show everyone that they're wrong, show everyone that he's wrong. And maybe I will do that, but not based on some angry, upset thoughts. I'll come from a place of clarity. And if you notice, if you observe yourself throughout the day, as I have, I've observed myself throughout the day, and what I see is that almost every action has a thought that comes before it. So the question is it a good thought? Is it a healthy, helpful thought? And that's why it's so important to watch what we think and only say yes to healthy, helpful thoughts. Now, one of the other rules of the game of life that Bruno Groening pointed out is how important it is to fill ourselves up with divine life energy. You notice I said divine. Bruno Groening spoke of the divine, the good, God, often. He spoke of it in different terms than how most people speak of God. He spoke of God as goodness, love, existence, being, aliveness, order, harmony, and saying that God is everywhere and in everything. He didn't go into complicated theological or theoretical explanations of what God was. He used these very simple, direct, straightforward words. He did point out that God never punishes, but does allow the consequence of our actions to come to us, and hence the game of life. If we do something negative, we're going to get some kind of negativity or pain back. And that's part of how it's a play school, is that we learn through the consequences of our actions. So he spoke of staying connected to this great reality, which again he called God, the good, the universal, the great, and that it's so important. Here's something that first he said what happens when we disconnect from God. He said the further a person withdraws from God, willingly or unwillingly, the less life there is in his body, and his organs do not function as they should. He has lost contact with the great divine source of his energy, and eventually he will even lose what little remains. Cut off from the power of God, his body becomes a wreck. So according to Bruno Groening, we need to be in connection, in communion with this great reality, not just for our spiritual health, but for our physical and emotional and mental health. And when our bodies are full of this divine power, then it's so much easier for us to be aware of and to fend off negative thoughts. It's when we are sluggish and not really full of energy that it's hard to pay attention to our thoughts. It's hard to be mindful. It's hard to be present. That's one of the reasons Bruno Groening said it's so important to stay full of this vital life energy. He strongly encouraged people to daily to take in this energy. So let's do some more of that now. And hopefully, as I'm talking and reading, you're continuing to do that, to draw in, to take in this healing life energy through observing your body. Noticing what you feel. So we've looked at the importance of thoughts and really of watching our thoughts and the power of thoughts. We've looked at the need to take in the divine power. And really, I was raised with this idea of God as this angry bearded man who was up and away in the sky. My understanding of what Bruno Groening shared about God was a loving, all-pervasive reality that's all around us, and the need to live in harmony with it and all of life. It's a very different relationship, if you want to use that word, to relate to God as an all-pervasive love existence, as life itself, and to truly want to honor all of this as sacred, every object, every person, everything as containing the essence of God within it. It calls us to feel the closeness of God, but also to relate to everything, with presence and honoring. So, a very important principle that Bruno Groening stressed was the need to have trust and faith. He pointed out that a lot of people talk about faith, but he said that people don't really know what faith or belief means anymore. According to Bruno Groening, there's more faith and belief aren't so much belief in a doctrine as they are belief in or trust in goodness, in God. As he said it so well, trust in the good being another expression he used to talk about God. Trust in the good is the foundation of divine order, meaning to have divine order in your life. That trust and faith in this goodness, in this good reality, is absolutely essential. That it must become our bottom line, faith and trust in the good. Now, this can be hard. Many of us have had hard lives. Many of us have experienced many negative, painful things. And that can lead people to no longer trust or believe in God, and for some people to even believe that there is a God. I have a very dear friend who was very much a spiritual person for a very long time, but then he experienced some painful circumstances in his life. And then after that, he just suffered so deeply that he couldn't believe that there was a God anymore. And I think that's very common. And so herein comes another fundamental rule of the game of life, is knowing that everything serves a purpose. Bruno Groening pointed out, he said over and over that God never punishes. He did say that God allows many hardship to occur for the sake of reparation, which means a repayment of a debt, or so to facilitate the learning of a lesson. And most of us can see in hindsight, after an event, I know it's true for me, in the middle of something painful going on, there can be this moment of, why is this happening? This is awful. But a day or a week, sometimes longer, a year, 2 years later, I can absolutely see that it served a purpose, almost always a learning purpose. Doesn't mean I like it. And of course, it'd be joyful to have learned that lesson without such pain. And sometimes that's what it takes. But Bruno was adamant that God never punishes. What happens always, as he said, The state of the world is steered by God. Only things that serve as a lesson are allowed to happen. This is so important because it's a fundamental worldview. There's really, as far as I can tell, there's kind of two fundamental worldviews. There's everything serves God, everything that happens, some way, somehow serves God and also serves us, serves our spiritual growth. So that's one way of looking at the world. And then there's another, which is a variety of different, like some things serve God, there is no God, there's no underlying meaning. But what Bruno Groening taught, as did many wise beings throughout the ages, that there's a fundamental order to life, that life is not a series of just chaotic, random happenings, that everything, everything is steered by God. And things go much better, are much less bumpy when we know the rules of life and live by them, such as watching our thoughts, such as filling ourselves up with good energy, such as trusting even when bad things happen, that somehow this serves the good. So let's take a little time and reflect on this new way of looking at faith, not faith in a doctrine per se, though I have put out one idea, and that well, two things, that faith in terms of a trust in God, in the good, there's some people have different words, source, in source love, in God, in the Creator. Trusting in that reality. And then a way that can help that is to look at the idea that everything serves the good, that all things are steered by God. So let's take a little time and take in some energy, or continue to take in some energy. Noticing what you feel. Just trying on the feeling of complete trust in God, in the good, in life. I'm so delighted to see so many familiar names. Welcome all. So these are not just a set of abstract metaphysical ideas. They have a real impact here on this earth and on our bodies and on our lives. I've experienced many healings through this path and practice. One such healing was very interesting to me. So one of the things that Bruno Groening spoke of is that objects can be charged either with positive or negative energy. And so there was a period in my life where I would just lie down and just hold the DVD of someone named Brazzo, who is different from Bruno. Some of you have probably heard of Brazzo. His teachings are very similar, and many people see many similarities. I see some similarities myself. I see some differences. And then one day I went and picked up a book and just stood there. And I would do this, maybe I did this for maybe a couple of weeks. I would just lay down and sort of hold the DVD. And I would hold it like this. For example, I would hold it in between my hands, which I didn't know why I was doing that. But it actually ended up being very significant because a couple of weeks later, after having done that, I went and picked up a book. And let's see, visual aid. I picked up a book and I just held it. And then I was shocked. I was able to hold it without any pain because I used to have a pinched nerve in my back to where I couldn't make this namaste prayer pose and I couldn't hold a book. I mean, I could do pretty much everything else, and occasionally it would send shooting pain down my arm, but one of my vertebrae was, the chiropractor or the doctor said one of the vertebrae was out of alignment, and there were just certain things I couldn't do. I couldn't do this for long periods. I couldn't put my hands like this, even for a couple seconds. Even just 1 or 2 seconds of this hurt. And it completely healed, or so I thought. Then I was at a Bruno Groening conference, a gathering where people get together and talk about Bruno Groening's ideas, and I was asked to hold something during the conference, giving all these visual aids today. So let's see what I can use to demonstrate. Well, I'll just use this. So I was asked to stand up and hold something, but it was very big. It was more like hold it like, it was a giant picture, but hold it like this. And I said, oh boy, if this, I wouldn't have been able to do this, but I've had a healing. And then in the middle of holding it, and I stood there for 40 minutes holding it like this, again, more like this because it was a little bigger. And my back and that nerve started to hurt a little bit. And I said, oh, Bruno, you have got to take care of this. You have got to heal this. Like I just told this whole group of people that I've had a healing from healing energy, like, and this is a healing conference, like that would be terrible if I had to say, oh, I need to stop, it hurts. So I just stood there and I gave the pinched nerve away. And I said, Bruno, please take care of this. And then the pain went away and now consider it complete, healed. And that was almost 7 years ago. And I haven't had any pain since. And I can do the namaste pose. I can hold books. So I consider it a team, Bruno Brazzo healing. Now, to anyone who's new, you may say, well, why did you ask Bruno Groening for help? Why not just ask God? Well, Bruno Groening pointed out that, here's what he had to say about it. Why a spiritual helper is needed for a certain point on the path. He said, let's see, during a storm, no one can come near me. I am then so charged that there was an electric lightning storm happening. He said, during a storm, no one could come near me. I am then so charged that anyone who comes near me would receive a lethal electric shock. The high voltage, however, does not harm my body. It is used to it from the divine power, since I must transform it into a lower voltage before I can pass it on to those who are seeking help. Human beings these days are so weakened that the direct divine healing current must always first be converted by a suitable transformer and adapted to the particular person concerned. God always has several transformers in action on this, his earth, who help to alleviate the distress and misery of human beings and animals. I too am one of those power converters who have been ordained by God. However, the friends must in the future learn to progress so far that they too can take in the energy of the good on their own without my assistance. So, in essence, Bruno Groening said that we need a spiritual helper until we don't. Each of us here is individuals, and each person needs to determine for themselves what that point is to where they no longer feel they need a helper or a mediator for the divine power. And Bruno Groening pointed himself out as one such mediator. In my view, Brazzo is such a mediator as well. And Bruno Groening here says that God always has several such beings on this planet who are available to take in the energy and to convert it so that it can be taken in. Elsewhere, he once said that most human beings are to the point where they can't accept the direct current anymore, that it would be too strong for them. And here he says something similar. So if that's a new idea to you, it was to me, didn't really make much sense, but I trusted and I tried, more so than trusted, I tried. I was open-minded and I asked this Bruno Groening guy, I was like, okay, Bruno Groening, please help. And I did experience help. And this is just one of the examples with this pinched nerve. So I want to keep going on, and I do need to, today's gonna need to be a little shorter than usual. Welcome to everyone. Krista said she found this channel while watching Brazzo. I love it. Bruno and Brazzo are on the same team, as is anyone who's truly devoted to service. And a very warm welcome to Claudie and Rita Ram. Gerald, hey Gerald, long time no, welcome. Jisoo, hello. And Forever Loving Everything, great to see you, feel you. Again, long time no. So today we went over most of, I'm trying to think if there's any others. The one I didn't have a chance to get to is this understanding of what evil is. We've talked a lot about the goodness, but Bruno Groening was adamant that human beings must be aware and mindful that there is a destructive force. And that's part of why we need the good, is to help us overcome what he called evil, what's destructive and harmful. For anyone who's new, I've made lots of videos on this topic, and it's a topic I speak to often. And those are the primary. It's not everything that Bruno Groening said, but that's kind of the essence of what Bruno Groening said about the rules of the game of life. So we'll do a final silent tuning in, really asking God and asking Bruno Groening for help, firmly determining that we don't want to have anything in common with the evil, harmful force anymore, and that we want to be free of all evil. And asking, how can we help? How can we serve? Bruno Groening said, serving God means helping. And I'll have to paraphrase the next piece. He said something along the lines of, every helpful act moves one towards salvation. I don't have the exact quote handy. So part of life isn't just about our own spiritual growth, which is very important in our own healing, but it's about finding ways to be helpful, to contribute, to serve God. So actually, I'm going to read a quote of Bruno's and then we'll tune in. Bruno Groening said, "Believe that I am nothing more than your helper. Believe, dear friends, that I am nothing more than a servant of God, which you can also be if you want to be, if you only do it. And believe, dear friends, that I am nothing more than a tool of God, which in reality you are also, which you are not yet able to believe. Love, life, God. God is everywhere." So as we tune in, let's really ask that we be freed from all evil, that we be willing to turn around and walk the good path, and that we be willing to serve life. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. Once again, so wonderful to see so many familiar names, and it just warms my heart. Truly it does. Thank you. So, dear friends, Bruno Groening said when he was in his body, "I have taken all of you into my heart." I believe that's true of anyone who truly reaches out to Bruno Groening for help and is truly willing to walk the good path and serve life. That Bruno Groening not only takes us by the hand, but really takes us into his heart and will walk every step of the journey with us until we are saved, free of all evil, and at home in God. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care. So much love.